Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League of Europe YouTube channel for round 15, the penultimate round of season 5 of Division 2. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentalist. I will once again be taking you through proceedings on a Saturday evening, and joining me in the commentary box today is someone new. I think they commentated on Division 2 a while back. It's been a while since they've been in the comms booth with me as well, but I am joined by the head commentator of Division 1, James Head. James, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really well, fresh from Division 1. Hopefully the driving standards are going to be better out on track, and it's going to be fascinating to see how everything is going to unfold, because we have literally got the tightest battle out on track.
Yeah, we really have. In terms of championship battle, this is the closest division at the moment. It really has been tooth and nail for the entire championship between the top three at the moment in recent rounds. Packer has slipped back somewhat in third, but he has improved in recent rounds, and especially last round in Italy, getting a second place finish, which bumped him right back into contention. So before we get going, what we'll do is we'll have a little talk through the championship standings at the moment. Currently leading is Matthias on 174 points. He's only 3 points ahead of Larkin, so that's very close. Packer is a further 18 points further back and 21 points off the lead. So Packer needs to go into the final round within 26 points of the championship leader to have a chance in the final round. Noon is fourth ahead of Gary, Falk, Rekurik, Vapor TDB. Ryan and Assassin are the top 10. And while it is really close for the top of the championship as well, looking from, well, fifth down, it's still incredibly close from fifth, pretty much all the way down, where you got to say to Arcolo in 17th.
Yeah, it's something like 49 points, I think, separating basically Gary all the way down to Arcolo, and it's going to be really intriguing to see how that is all going to unfold out on track. Of course, we've got Matthias and Larkin, 3 points separating the top of the standings. Last week, Matthias, of course, outscored Larkin by 5 points out on track. Eight points for him. Larkin got 3, and Matthias will be hoping to try and wrap up the championship here tonight, but nothing is said and done in Formula 1.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing is said and done. It's looking likely that the championship will go on to Brazil, but, you know, anything could happen. If Matthias wins this race and Larkin and Packer don't score any points, then the championship is over and done with, and Matthias will win the championship here today. So anything can happen. We'll have to wait and see. And Spa, as per usual, always throws up some sort of chaos. If it's a wet race, even if it's a dry race, it usually results in some sort of drama. This race is very close in terms of on-track action as well. Got a nice dry qualifying at least by the looks of things. Don't know about the race just yet. We'll wait and see. But like I was saying, Spa, this track is a track where the racing is really, really close, isn't it? The field spread here tends to be very small.
Very small indeed. And yeah, we had 9/10 of a second separating the guys in qualifying, the entire field in qualifying. 9/10 of a second separating the closest qualifying session of the season in Division 1. But in Division 2, we remain to be seen. VRT Falco's going to be one of the first to come out of the pit lane. QVR Packer, third man in the championship, is first out on track, and the Alfa Romeo will be hoping for a really good result. And of course, Alfa Romeo are also within the constructors' fight, as Alfa Romeo are leading the way. 232 points they're on. Racing Point in second on 225, but Ferrari and Red Bull close on their heels, 119, 186 in third and fourth. Haas fifth on 140, McLaren sixth on 143 for Haas, 140 for McLaren, 116 for Mercedes in seventh, Renault in eighth on 109, Williams ninth on 77, and AlphaTauri in 10th on 45 points. And I've got to say, constructor standings, we're going to be going to the final race in Brazil with the Constructors' Championship still up for grabs.
Yeah, definitely going to be going up with that at the moment. Alfa Romeo kind of have led the way ever since the second round of the season. Packer helped them get to the front of the field in Austria alongside Williams, and then when TDB joined Division 2, he really jumped up to the front of the field and was immediately on the podium in his first race. So Alfa Romeo kind of have led the way in manufacturers. The problem for Alfa Romeo at the moment seems to be they never seem to get a result on the same day together. It's always either Packer on the podium or TDB on the podium. They're never on the podium at the same time, so that's what they're going to try and hope to do today. We're going to ride on board with Packer. He's going to be the first person to take us through a lap as per usual. He's always the first one out on track, so we are not surprised to see him out there at the moment. And this man, one time race winner this season, his first win in Division 2 this season he's been a bit frustrated though. He's missed out on 3 victories this season because of a late race penalty, so he's looking to try and finish off the season on a high, try and stay within the championship fight going into Brazil. He's not looking too confident though around Spa. It's not one of his favourite circuits, but here we go on to a lap around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. A short run in towards the La Source hairpin. It dips down on the apex, and you get round the corner and it goes downhill towards the bottom of Eau Rouge. Nice traction out of the first corner from the Alfa Romeo as he heads down the hill past the support paddock pit lane through Eau Rouge and up through Radion. It looks like he might get a nice little toe off with his teammate just in front, but his teammate's a little bit too far up the road for him to really gain anything as they go down the Kemmel Straight and up towards the bus stop chicane. TDB giving a slight toe. We'll see what the first sector time is for Paco as he crosses it. 29.8, not bad, but it's not the fastest we're going to see as we head into the Les Combes chicane. Nice and neat through there, through Malmedy. A little bit extended the curb is on this game this time around. Much easier to get the car through that without having any sort of problem. Downhill hairpin here, really easy to jock up as Paco proves as he comes through the hairpin into the corner with no name, which is actually called X Corner, but we call it with no name because that is the name that it's been kind of stuck with for the last 20 years or so as he heads down towards Pouon. Now probably the most difficult corner on the track after Eau Rouge is completely flat in a modern Formula 1 car. Paco gets through there quite nicely, up towards the chicane with many names, the Campus, the Lefania chicane, whichever one you want to call it. It's difficult on the curbs on the inside on both sides of it, but Paco again, nice and neat through there. Into Stavolo in the end of the second sector. The majority of the corners of the lap are now over and done with, and a 13.3 in the middle sector again. Not the fastest we're going to see. We're going to be seeing people in the mid-12s by the end of the second sector as he heads through up towards Blanchemont. Easily flat in a modern Formula 1 car, and then into the reprofiled bus stop chicane, reprofiled in 2007. Here he goes then, completely flat on this game. It does have an uphill rise in real life, but hops over the curbs nicely. A little bit of a dip on the apex and on the exit of the corner. Makes it difficult on traction, but Paco gets out nicely. First lap over and done with, and it's a 41.3 from our third place man in the championship. Goes on to provisional pole. We wait for everyone else to come up to the line. Falk will be next. Was IFR, has recently moved as of today to VRT as a team manager. He crosses the line and goes a tenth and a half quicker at the front of the field in the Haas. Haas have really been at the front of qualifying all season long. He's just been beaten by Rekurik, who then is just beaten by McCrass, who goes a half a tenth of a second faster himself. Across the line next goes Dylan at 41.3, just ahead of Paco and just behind Falk. So once again, starting off nice and close as Assassin is the first person to dip into the 1 minute 40s.
Yeah, really good lap time by Assassinat on top. Nick Rass in second, Rekurik in third, Falcon fourth at this stage, but a very close qualifying session early on. 7 tenths of a second separating the top 8 at this stage. But imagine this, there's going to be a lot of improvements out on track as this session goes on. It is going to be dry as well. And Montana, by the way, said in the comment section, James Head overdose incoming. I totally agree with that. TDB's on the lap. He's on board. I'm on board with him running down in towards Pouon. He's actually looking quite quick through the first sector. Now through the middle sector, down in towards Ravage, and then in towards the Lefania chicane as well. But TDB is on a good lap here. The Dutchman out on track, trying to channel his TTML Division 2 form from earlier on in the week, which I, of course, had the privilege of commentating over. And TDB now coming through the final couple of corners into this third sector. 113.1 out on track. Assassin out on track. Big Crass in second. Arcola was just gone third. A lot of close times, though, towards the top end of the field, as Paco is now going to give TDB a bit of slipstream, running through Blanchemont, and now on the run up towards the bus stop chicane, of course, reprofiled in the early 2000s as TDB now comes through the final corner, and TDB, I think he's going to go maybe ahead of Mick Ross with this lap. TDB to the line will go 7th in the end with a 141.205, but look at how close it is. Mick Ross down to Falk, separated by 800ths of a second.
Yeah, incredibly close in that midfield at the moment. Like I say, McCrass, you can include Falcon Noon in there as well. Dylan right in there. In fact, it's half a second. Well, 4 tenths of a second, covering second all the way down to 14th at the moment. It's so close in the midfield, as it has been with Division 2 pretty much all season long. This is very typical for Division 2 at the moment. But anyway, Sway is the next person who's currently on a lap reserve driver in the Red Bull today, filling in for Yorno, who is no longer a part of League of Europe as he heads up towards the bus stop chicane. He's had a few decent performances. He's not really had the race results, but his qualifying performances have been pretty decent for reserve in the previous rounds. He heads up towards the line, and his first lap in the session is only a 41.8, which puts him 17th at the moment, only faster than Nolan, whose lap time wasn't representative. It's only a 42.6 from the Williams man. We're still yet to see Matt Tibos, who is a reserve driver, and Matthias, our championship leader, yet to leave the pit lane. Of all the people in the championship fight, though, Noon is technically within the championship fight, still currently 4th in the standings, but quite a way off. He's the highest place of them in 9th place. You wouldn't believe, if you looked at this order right now, that the people that are fighting for the championship at the moment are 9th, 11th, 15th and last on the grid. Yeah,
Matthias, of course, championship leader coming in tonight down in the last. Larkin in 15th He was second in the championship and 3 points in behind. So Larkin currently has got Matthias' number, but that's because Matthias hasn't set a lap time out on track. Assassin, though, is out on top. Arcolo in second. Mikras in second and Arcolo in third. I was right on board with Arcolo. He's just invalidated on his lap. Rakurik is back out on an out lap. Packer is also out on an out lap. He's coming through towards the end of the first sector now, running down in towards Bruxelles. But Assassin's out on top. Mikras second. Arcolo in third. It's going to be really difficult, I think, for these guys, though, to try and improve on their lap times. We've seen it so many times where there's changeable conditions normally in qualifying. We had it in Division 1 earlier on, and in Division 2, we're going to have dry and dry. So everyone's on a dry setup. They've really got pretty much millimetres to play with in terms of how they're going to try and improve out on track.
Yeah, they really do, and a lot of the corners around this track are medium to high speed corners. A lot of the corners you don't really have the opportunity to gain a lot of time. People think that corners like Puon are places where you can gain or lose, but theoretically it's only one downshift and a pretty much flat out corner once you get past the apex, so you don't gain a lot of time in a lot of these corners. It's all about getting the rhythm nice and tidy, and even a minute improvement, a 10th improvement for Packer here, a couple of tenths actually, a couple of tenths for him could put him right up towards the front of the field. So any little gain he can find, he needs to try and find a little bit blocked though by one of the Williams. I think that is Nolan, who's run out of fuel on his way back to the pit lane. Luckily, Packer wasn't on a lap, but he's going to be the next person to start his second run in qualifying. This man has had 3 pole positions so far this season. He's had a really, really good season in qualifying at least. Needs to convert them to more race victories. We'll see what he can do. Currently 11th on the grid.
Yep, down in towards La Source, Packer on a lap. I'm not sure what the joke is with Ethan Song Wee, by the way, in the comment section. You'll have to explain that one to me later on. Packer's out on Packer, though, in 11th position. He'll be hoping to try and improve. He's got his teammate TDP just ahead of him. It's very similar to what we saw with Pantera and Doom in Division 1 just a couple of seasons ago. But Packer now on the run down in towards Lecom. And don't worry about those yellow flags in Sector 3 as well. 29.7, he's a 10th up through the first sector, so he needs to try and improve coming through Lecom, and now on the run down in towards Bruxelles. On the exit of Lecom, really tries to fly out of the corner. It's Assassin still out on top, Mikras in second, Arcolo in third. If you're just tuning in at this point, you haven't really missed much in the whole grand scheme of things. Matthias, by the way, has just started up on a lap. And Packer now coming out of X on the run down in towards Puon, and this is looking quite quick from the American out on track, and of course, he'll be hoping to try and get up to the field, but not if he does that. He spins halfway through Puon, very similar to Chapelelli in the race in Division 1, but Packer is round. He spun the car, luckily no damage, and he will be back into the pit lane.
You will be back into the pits. That is such a shame. It looked like it was a good lap, but a minute snap of oversteer midway through the corner. He ran wide midway through Puon, and then once you get onto the curb, it's very easy to spin. I don't know if you had another yellow flag somewhere. One of the Renaults, I think, has gone off the road. I don't know if that is Scooter. That might be actually just Scooter Seb moving out of the way, but coming almost to a complete stop to do so. There was a lot of traffic in the middle sector at the moment, so I think a lot of drivers might get caught out by that Assassin. Our current pole time at the moment, a 10th and a half clear of the rest of the field at the moment. It's very close out the field, apart from Assassin, who's the only one in the 1 minute 40s. He's on another lap, but he's going to be coming up on a lot of traffic himself as well. Hasn't found any time in the first sector at least, but most of the time you're going to find is in the middle part of the lap. So let's see if he's found any more time in that Williams in the middle part. Another reserve driver. He's the highest placed reserve driver in the championship, and he's 2 tenths up in the middle sector. He's absolutely flying. Is Assassin. Could he be one of our newest winners in this championship? I've lost count of how many winners we have this season. I think it's up to 8, maybe even 9 different winners so far this season. We'll have to wait and see if Assassin can add to that list. The only reserve driver it could be to get a win this season. Currently 10th in the standings as he heads into the boss stop, a little bit deep in the first part, but still gets the car stopped nicely, gets it turned in for the final part. Big wheel spin on the exit of the corner that cost him a bit of time, but it's still an improvement. It's a 40.8, and in the same time Dylan has gone into second place on a 41 flat. That is then just beaten by Matthias, who goes into P2 on a 40.9. Didn't have a time on the board, finally does have one, and he's up into second place, miles clear of the rest of his championship protagonists.
Yeah, really great lap time by Matthias. Dylan up into third as well. Gary's fourth as well. 141 flat. He's just gone up into fourth. O'Connell 7,000 up through the first sector. Doom just getting caught on the curb coming through the middle sector. What's Mikras doing? He's 800s up coming out through the bus stop. And Mikras now toward the line. Is he going to go quickest? No, he goes third, and he goes 100th of a second ahead of Dylan. How's that come for consistency, though? Mikras, Dylan, and Gary all on .0.7 out on track, which is not too bad at all. Assassin leading the way, though. Matthias in second, Mikras in third. Larkin, championship contender, second in the championship, goes fifth.
Yeah, that's a much better qualifying performance for Larkin, who last time out in Italy was on the back row of the grid. He really had a shocker in qualifying in Italy. There seems to be a track where he's a little bit more confident. Joom now into second place on a 40.8 in that AlphaTauri. Once again, the AlphaTauri's looking strong in qualifying. TDB now goes third in the Alfa Romeo. It's all shuffling at the front of the field. A 40.9 goes 4 thousandths clear of Matthias into third place. Arcolo coming through the final corner. He's nearly 4 tenths up. What can he do as he comes out of the final corner and towards the line? What a stunning lap time from Arcolo. Arcolo, a 40.6, and yet again Arcolo is right up there in qualifying. Arcolo, with the best qualifying record I think of anybody so far this season in Division 2, has had an absolute stunner. He's only finished outside the top 5 once in quali this season, and that's when he crashed in Zandvoort in qualifying. It's been stunning for him in qualifying. Can he convert it in race conditions? So that's going to be the difficult thing, but a tenth and a half at the front of the field, that's going to take a mega lap from someone else to try and beat that.
Yeah, tenth and a half is very difficult to find, especially when the field is so condensed out on track. Arcolo is a tenth and a half clear of Assassin, but with Joom in third, I'm not sure if you're seeing a random glitch, by the way, with Relentless Nolan flashing on your screen. I certainly am, which is very... Oh my god, that is like unbroadcastably bad.
I'm not seeing it on my end. Nolan's just driving around quite normally for me, so that's good for me. At least we're not seeing this problem for Nolan. But yeah, Nolan currently 19th on the grid, 42.6, hasn't done a representative time yet. Neither has Matt Tibos. Matt Tibos still set a time in the session, and with only 4 minutes to go, this has got to be their last runs in qualifying because the track's so long, they're not going to get another run in after this point.
Yeah, you'd like to imagine. So Nunes on the lap time for Excel, 14th position for the Ferrari man, 141.2, his current best, but he should be quicker than this. Hopefully out on track. He's 200ths down, and actually the cloud cover beginning to come over the circuit. It's looking now a little bit overcast through the middle sector. Arcolo, Assassin, Joom out on top, first, second and third. AlphaTauri first and third as well, but Noon now coming in towards Blanchimont on the run up towards bus stop, and he's run out of fuel.
Yeah, he has. So he's gone for the second lap on that same set of tyres and run out of fuel at the end of it. Luckily for him, he's able to get back into the pit lane in time so that he can get another set on. So that's at least a crumb of comfort for him, but 14th on the grid. Packer as well, 15th on the grid. Noon and Packer third and fourth in the championship at the moment in the opposite order. Just not going well for them in the qualifying at the moment, with Matthias and Larkin up in the top 10.
Yeah, Matthias and Larkin in the top 10, 5th and 9th currently for Matthias and Larkin. Packer as well down in 15th position. If you're hoping to try and improve, Dylan as well could be one man to improve out on track. He's out lap, one of the first men out there, along with Nolan, along with Nolan I think is just starting a lap, and along of course with J. Cole down in 12th position, but Nolan just starting up a lap. The interesting thing is, he set 3 lap runs basically on a set of soft compound tyre, on that same soft compound tyre, and he managed 142.6. Not a representative time from all of them, and now he's on a lap coming through a Rouge and Radion, with Matt Tibos also coming in the middle sector.
Yeah, Matt Tibos 40.7 in the first sector, so not a bad first sector from the McLaren man, but he was a little bit wide of the Malmedy Apex. It just didn't quite look hooked up. That McLaren is really struggling to get the car turned into P1. Nice and neat through P1 actually, but again, just a little bit of a wobble midway through the corner. It looks like he's running quite an aggressive setup, and he's running right on the limit of grip at the moment. Just touches the curb on the left-hand side before he turns in to the campus chicane, and that's just not quite worked for him. He had a little bit of understeer midway through the corner into Savalo, and again, just a lot of understeer. 13.1 in the second sector, that's not going to be enough. I think even to put him inside the top 10 at this point in the session, it might be enough to maybe put him on that 11th place spot, which is so highly regarded in this Formula 1 game. Can he get anywhere near that? Can he get anywhere near his teammate Gary, who is currently 10th on the grid? Matt Tibelson up towards the bus stop chicane, the final 2 corners off the lap, brakes very late, gets the car stopped nicely. Through the final corner he goes. This is going to be his last run in qualifying. Up towards the line, derating before the line, crosses it. Only a 41.2, 15th on the grid. He's 6/10 of a second off pole, mind you, 6/10, but he's 15th on the grid. That's how close this field is. And Nolan has invalidated when he was only on 13.4, so his time wouldn't have been much better.
Yeah, he invalidated through a Rouge, I think, out on track. J. Cole is on the lap. He's just started off, and the Brit will be hoping to try and improve on a 141.11, 199, I should say, out on track. It's still Arcolo, Assassin and Jim your top three, and Jacob's going to get a cheeky bit of slipstream here from Larkin. You love to see a bit of XL slipstream running down the straight. 29.8. The team's full of them, by the way, in Division 2. Jacob now coming through the end of the first sector, now through the middle sector. Matt Tibos just getting on the way to the right-hand side, and this is not looking like a bad lap so far. He's down in the first sector, but if you can find improvement in this middle sector, the all-important middle sector out on track, he'd be hoping to try and improve. There's a lot of traffic, though, that he's going to be approaching, especially down in towards Stavilo.
Yeah, a lot of traffic at the moment. One person who's going to be encountering that is Jacobs, invalidated through Puwon. Dylan was another one that was catching that traffic, but he's also invalidated his final run in qualifying. He's backed off, I think, to try and save fuel and maybe go for another run, but that is going to be pushing it as people now start their final runs in the session. Assassin has just started his final run. It looks like it might be one of the Red Bulls that is going to be the first one along their final run in the session. I think Nolan's going for another lap on the same set of tyres as well. Currently 20th on the grid. He's slightly up in the first sector. And then he spins through the campus chicane, and that is his session over and done with. Nolan then last on the grid without putting a representative time in, just didn't look comfortable. That is his session over. That is him at the back of the field for qualifiers. Let's look a bit further up the field as to who is on a lap. Packer's currently on a lap, and I think we've got another yellow flag somewhere in the final part of the lap, it looks like.
Yeah, that's Nolan's car, but Gary just invalidated coming through Stavilo, on the exit of Stavilo, and he was a tenth and a half down on his time, so Gary wouldn't have been setting a good time out on track. And Matt Tibos is retired of the session, and there's a Red Bull that I think is invalid. Is that Matthias that is invalid? No, it's Sway.
Sway's invalidated. Packer, meanwhile, he's 0.3 of a second up at the moment. He needs to find a bit more time, though, if he wants to get himself right up where his championship rivals are. Currently 16th on the grid is Packer, the man that's been so strong in qualifying all season long. He'll be the first person to finish his final run in the session. Here he goes then through the bus stop chicane, gets the car stopped nicely, coming out the final corner, short shifts to another wheel spin out of the corner and towards the line. Packer crosses. It's only 11th on the grid for third place in the championship. Rekurik crosses behind. He can't go any better than 12th himself. Next is one of the Ferraris. That is going to be, I believe that's Zaldimer. Zaldimer only 18th on the grid at the moment. We've got the Haas cars will be coming up to the line shortly, as will Matthias. Matthias is currently in the middle sector as that is Assassin's not improved at all. He stays in second place at the moment. A little bit further down, McCrass coming up towards the line. Falk's coming up towards the line as well. Falk currently 14th, goes P10. McCrass will be one of the next drivers to come in. He's actually darted into the pit lane, so he won't be improving. TDB's invalidated. What would have been a 40.7, so that would have been second on the grid for him. That has not come true. Yeah, Matthias has Scuderius. Seb now goes P4 right at the front of the field. That's a great lap time from Scuderius. Seb. Whoa, and there we go. Matthias to the front of the field, a 40.6. Can Arcolo snatch it off him? No, he can't. No. Arcolo has invalidated. What about Joom? He's also invalidated his time. So the only other person on the lap is Larkin, currently 10th on the grid. He crosses the line. Oh my word! Second place on the grid by less than 0.02 of a second. The top two in the championship are on the front row, but it's Matthias that takes the pole position, but that could not have been any closer.
It could have been 0.004 of a second like it was in Division 1, but that also gave me a heart attack, honestly. Matthias is out on top. Larkin in second and Arcolo in third. 0.05 just less of a second for the top three. Assassin's there in fourth, Doom in fifth, Seb in sixth, TDB seventh, Noon in eighth, Bikras in ninth, and Dylan ran off the top 10. Falk, Gary, Packer, Rekurik, J. Cole ran off the top 15. Ryan, Matt Tibbles, Zerdimer, Sway, and Nolan. Not representative times at all there from Sway and Nolan, but 8.5 of a second, separating the top 18 out on track. Really good going from these guys in Division 2, and Matthias has got and bagged pole position ahead of his championship rival Larkin.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. That's first blood, at least, in these final few rounds for Matthias. But the problem here now is that run up towards the Legcom chicane. We've seen it so many times in league racing and in real-life F1 that being second coming out of the source is often better than being in the lead because of the slipstream you can get up the hill. So we'll see if Larkin can make hay with that and see if he can get up towards the front. 0.4 covers the top 10. That is incredibly close. That is, again, one of the closest qualifying sessions we've had this season. Less than 0.5 covered the top three. And you've got to say that without invalidations, it looked like Arcolo, Jeem and TDB all would have been right within that 0.5 as well.
They would have been, and yeah, plenty of invalidations though out on track, and that's what cost them at the end of the day. The invalidations just coming back to haunt them, but we are set for an absolute thriller here in Division 2, and hopefully we are going to get to see some really good action out on track. Let's hope the driving standards are carried here in Division 2 tonight compared to what we had in Division 1, but hopefully it is going to be really interesting to see how this battle is going to really come alive out on track. Matthias on top, Larkin in second, both fighting out for the championship, possibly could go around to the final round of the season in Brazil, but Matthias has got to get an advantage over Larkin tonight to stand any sort of chance of trying to win this championship.
He really does, yeah. He's going to have to try and build as many points as he can going into Brazil. We know at Brazil, Larkin is very strong, so we'll have to wait and see what he can pull off in today's race. But being on pole is the best way to start this evening for him. That is the best he could have hoped for in qualifying. That is brilliant stuff from the Red Bull man, who leads the championship, by the way. Remember that by 3 points. It's that close between these two on the front row at the moment. That, by the way, I think is one of Larkin's best qualifyings of the season. That's kind of surprising to see Larkin so far up the grid, if I'm personally honest. So far this season, he's kind of been languishing at the bottom end of the field in qualifying, but that is a brilliant lap time from him to get him up the front. Looking at strategies, by the way, outside the top 10, not surprised to see everybody has gone for the medium compound tyres. It's easy, soft, medium, medium, soft at this circuit, and the alternate strategy here is powerful, but not as powerful as you would say as other circuits.
No, definitely not. And there's one big advantage, I think, that is going to be carried on, and that's because the pad and the wheel are going to be pretty much line astern, pretty much at the same pace as each other. So there's no real difference in terms of the tyre strategy between the softs and between the mediums out on track. The medium strategy, I would say, maybe just the one to go with. But it remains to be seen how this is going to be utilised out on track, because we've got Falk all the way down to Nolan on that set of mediums. They'll be open to try and make early ground, especially if there's a little bit of contact further up the field. But Matthias has got to literally nail this start. He's got to get the best start of his league racing career, if I've got to be honest. And Larkin has got to be under pressure from Marcolo and Assassin for Matthias to try and get away early on. And that could be the difference between winning and losing.
It really could be, yeah. We've seen DRS training be such a thing on this game, and especially at this circuit. It's so easy to say within DRS range that if you can break that, that is almost one hand on the trophy already in this race for Matthias. If you can pull that off, we'll wait and see what he can do. We've also got to keep an eye behind on the drivers like Arcolo and Assassin, Doom, Scooter Iseb, and TDB. All really have nothing to fight for in terms of championship. Only one of them has won so far this season. That is Arcolo. Those four behind Arcolo, all looking for their first win in Division 2. They have the pace to pull it off. They've got nothing to fight for in terms of championship, so it's going to be all guns blazing for those drivers. Before we get ready though, James, what's your prediction for race winner?
Oh, I knew you would do this to me, honestly. Top 3 for me. I'm going to have to go Larkin for the win. I think he's just been more consistent in the races this season. That 3-win streak, of course, earlier on. Larkin for the win. I'm going to go Matthias second, and I'm going to go Scuderia Seb if he's got the pace in third. Brilliant
stuff. We'll have to wait and see. Scuderia Seb's first, I believe Scuderia Seb's first race in League of Europe was at the Spain race last season in Division 2, where he pulled off a brilliant result. But here we go then. Here come the lights ahead of the top 2 in the championship. It's Matthias versus Larkin. Already we got a jump start for Nolan and Arcolo. Nolan at the back of the field. Arcolo third on the grid has jumped the start, but off the line we go. Larkin challenging around the outside of turn 1. He's having a look. Matthias is going to try and force him on the curb, but he doesn't quite get alongside. It looks all neat and tidy through the first corner, but up towards the Eau Rouge and then in towards Radion. It looks like one of the Williams further behind Assassin has fallen behind TDB, who's had a brilliant start, and Larkin all over the back of Matthias, basically pushing him down the Kemmel Straight. He goes to the inside line. He's using up that ERS to try and get the move done, but Matthias using a little bit more to stay in front, and Matthias is going to hold it into the Les Combes chicane. Further back, Assassin side by side with TDB. That's going to put Assassin on the inside for Malmedy. Can TDB try and hold it around the outside? He's really pushing it. Assassin runs a little bit onto the inside of the corner. TDB still trying to go around the outside. Assassin pretty much forcing him completely off the track nearly on the exit of the corner, and TDB finally backs out of the move, stays in 5th place. Assassin holds 4th, and now here comes Scuderia Seb down the inside of TDB trying to get the move done, but has to back out of it at the last moment to make sure there's not a crash. Further back, Arcolo, I think that's Arcolo that's gone off at the back. It is Arcolo after that jump start has spun coming out of X corner. His race is pretty much over and done with unless there's a safety car. The same for Nolan. So at the moment Matthias still leads. As a bit further back there was a big moment. I think that might have been for Noon, was it?
Yeah, it was. I was running on ball with him, got caught on the inside curve coming out of the Lefania chicane, and Dylan right on the back of him now. But Matthias leads the way, 4/10 of a second, Larkin in second, and Matthias got the jump, literally because he used up so much ERS down the Kemmel Straight, and that's what keeps him in the lead of the race at the minute. Larkin second, Juman third, Dylan trying to pressurise Noon onto the back down into the bus stop chicane, not looking for the move. They've got both the one former IFR man, of course, in Falk, and then the other IFR man in Mick Brassen behind. Zerdam and Packer are having a fight further down the field as well. They're side by side coming out the chicane, as well as Nolan and Sway, and Nolan now is going to get a tremendous run on Zerdam, and Zerdam is now going to drop back past two positions. He's actually just sent it around the outside through into the source, and if he pulls this one off, I'll give him a fiver, and he has. Zerdam is through. I think I've just said that now, and I'm going to have to give him a fiver. Nolan now down into 18th position, but Zerdam through, and he's into 17. Mikras, though, is on the back, and that is Falk getting overtaken by Mikras, and Mikras is now through on the halves, and he's now through, and I think he's up into P7, if I'm not mistaken.
I have to wait and see, but I think he's just got past because Falk is on that alternate strategy. It would make sense for Falk to hold Mikras up. It make more sense for Mikras to try and drag his teammate along with him. That's for 9th place on the road. Falk currently running in 10th. Ryan has managed to get up a few places in the early phase of this race. He's also on that alternate strategy, currently running in 11th place. The biggest loser on that first up, of course, Arcolo out of the race already. Nolan has to serve a drive-through in this race as well. Packer has not had a good start, and he's derating already on this lap. It seems he's used so much ERS coming out of La Source and up towards Les Combes, but he's just run out of ERS for this lap alone. So currently struggling down in 16th place, barely hanging on to the back of Matt Tibos. Larkin still tucked right underneath the rear ring of Matthias for the race lead, and that DRS train that we were talking about is starting to happen. It looks like maybe the only gap in the field is Jacob, but I think there might be a bit of a timing glitch on my end. So I think everyone at the moment, all the way down to Nolan in 8th, all the way down to Sway actually 19th, they're all within DRS range of one another.
Yep, choo-choo, hop on a board. Larkin right on the back of Matthias, and Larkin tries to get him up towards the bus stop. Chicane Seb, by the way, in TDP. Yeah, side by side down in towards the bus stop, and TDP, I think, just holds on to the position. Seb tried it all the way around the outside. The Brit on the back of the Dutchman, and he's got another Brit in behind in Noon, who's suddenly all on the back of this. Lap 3 out of 22, Matthias leads Larkin second, Juman third. Just an update about Arcolo. He DNF'd out the race because his wheel broke. That is unfortunate luck for Arcolo, and Larkin now right on the back of Matthias, and he's literally just sitting there waiting to pounce.
Yeah, so one of he's going to go for the move now is using some of his ERS. It looks like Matthias is also using some to try and stay ahead. They're using a lot to battle each other, but Larkin with the DRS is going to just breeze down the inside. Nothing Matthias can do to fight that, and Larkin is your new race leader then. So second in the championship, passes the lead of the championship for the lead of the race. Larkin leads the way, Matthias down to second. Joom sits in third with more ERS than both of our race leaders at the moment. So Joom sitting nicely.
On the wall.
Yeah, Falk has spun coming out of Mamadi.
Yeah, lost it on the outside curb coming out of Malmedy, and now running down towards Bruxelles. He's got left side end plate damage, right side end plate damage on the car. Absolute disaster. He just got caught on the outside curb. It's as pure and simple as that, and Falk is now down pretty much out of contention.
That is such a shame for Falk. He was the leader of those on that alternate strategy. He's now completely out of the running. Unless we get a safety car, that promotes Ryan up into the top 10 on those medium tyres, but he's got some work on his hands.
Oh, and Dylan's round!
Yeah, Dylan spun as well. Round. My word, everyone's going off on this lap.
Everyone is. Dylan is now round, and what is it with me and cursing drivers tonight? Honestly, I did it with Schiaparelli in Division 1, and now I was running on board with Dylan, and he just spun purely on the curb on the exit through the Lavagna chicane, and now Dylan is down into 18th. Luckily, no damage on the car. Sway's chasing down Nolan, by the way, down in towards Blanchemont. Williams and Red Bull fighting out for 16th and 17th. The closest battle out on track this is, but Larkin out on top. Matthias in second, Doom in third. Sway doesn't go for the move. Nolan with that 5-second, with that drive-through penalty, and he is now going to come into the pit lane to serve up that drive-through penalty. I think he already has he? It's not showing on my end that he's got a drive-through.
No, he's serving it now. He definitely still has that drive through on his end. The lucky thing for Nolan is that this is probably one of the shortest pit lanes of the season, so he's not going to lose too much time. He will drop to the back of the field. Falk in to replace that front wing. Dylan now completely detached at the back of the field, as is Sway. There was a gap formed where Dylan was between Noon and Macrass, but Macrass has very quickly closed that gap up and is now running in 8th place. Ryan in 9th, just outside of DRS range of Macrass in front. He needs to desperately get back into that to help these drivers out. He's got Gary and Recur Rekurik right behind. Rekurik flying on his medium compound tyres has had a dismal middle part of the season. 3 podiums in a row in the first 3 rounds, including a win at Silverstone, and hasn't been in the top 5 since then. It's been such a shocker in the middle part of the season. An early championship contender. He's looking to try and get a bit further up the field, but at the moment, still nothing paying off for him, as Sway is the first person to get a track limits time penalty. We might see a few of those today, but it's not that crucial around this circuit. Larkin leads, but you've got to say, Larkin looks the faster of the two here. The gap is about 0.8 of a second. It looks like Matthias is just barely holding on.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Matthias is struggling with his front right. He's locking up pretty much into every corner, and he's beginning to struggle in terms of that front right, and that is what's cost him. Doom is on the back of him, and he's 4 tenths away. He was about 2 tenths away running down into Le Corne last time around, so Doom will be hoping to try and get onto the back of Matthias. Assassin going to try and sniper him down. That's a terrible pun, I know. Doom in 3rd, Assassin in 4th. Yeah, I really do not grow old, do I? Assassin's right on the back of Doom, and TDB's in 5th. But it's literally looking like a big DRS train, though, out on track. As Rick has now lost the back of Gary. I wonder if he got caught on the outside of Stavolo and has lost the time, and now J. Cole is within his reach.
Yeah, that's a little bit bizarre that he was tucked right up behind the McLaren. It definitely insinuates he's made some sort of error, but that has left him vulnerable now to J. Cole behind, and it's going to allow Gary and Ryan a bit of breathing space on their medium tyres. Speaking of those drivers on the medium tyres, on that last lap, lap 4 of this race, where you would expect the softs to still be pretty strong, Ryan set the fastest lap of the race, so he's going very nicely on those medium compound tyres, sitting in 9th place. The man who has 2 podiums, I believe, so far this season. He's currently running inside the top 10 in the points, really gunning for that 5th place in the standings. Looking good so far for the Mercedes driver in front of him. Macrass completely off the road coming out of Malmedy. That is definitely some sort of warning on his end. But like we mentioned earlier on, at the front of the field, Larkin has a bit of pace advantage. Matthias is sticking in his DRS range. Larkin's using up his ERS to try and pull away. Matthias is using up his ERS to stay in touch, and Doom hasn't really used any ERS and is keeping up nice and easily.
Yeah, Doom's got about 27% more than Matthias. Matthias, in turn, has got about 18% more than Larkin ahead. So Matthias and Doom have pretty much got an advantage in terms of that ERS. But have they got the natural pace to try and close up? It doesn't look likely at this moment. But Larkin is 7 tenths clear on the run through Stavolo for the 5th time. Matthias in 2nd, Doom in 3rd. Seb looking quite close onto the back of TDB. He's just coming under the radar a little bit. The top 7 now beginning to break free with Mick Grass, who's struggling on those tyres. Ryan now beginning to catch back up, and we're beginning to see, I think, the mediums now begin to come into play. We're seeing the crossover period. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if we start to see drivers into the pit lane, probably from this lap, especially further down the field. We are, scrap that what I've literally just said, nobody is into the pit lane, and we go on to lap 6 with everyone still out there on a set of softs.
Yeah, everyone's staying out for the time being, but like you mentioned, yeah, the medium's starting to come into their own. Ryan tucked up behind Macrass. Macrass is desperately trying to get back within DRS range of Noon in front, which would help his race, and I think Macrass is just about going to do that. He does get within DRS range, and Ryan in turn I think might have lost DRS to Macrass, so it's going to give an opportunity to last week's race winner Gary to get past the Mercedes driver down towards Le Corne. The only problem for Gary, he's got absolutely no ERS left that he can use. He's stuck behind the Mercedes driver, hasn't got any straight line advantage despite having the DRS. He just couldn't use it to get past the Mercedes who didn't have it, so Gary's struggling in 10th. Doesn't seem to have a lot of straight line speed, has used up pretty much all of his ERS a little bit too soon in this race. Stuck in 10th for the time being. Further up the field again, it's still Larkin leading the way. It's just kind of waiting now to see who's going to be the first person to pull the trigger when they come to the pit stops. And you've got to say, you've got to look out for someone like Assassin or TDB to be the first ones to come in, because they look like they've got the pace to lead from the front, but they're not going to get there by overtaking. They've got to do it through strategy.
Yeah, you would imagine so, and the undercut around here is quite powerful. If I'm not mistaken, it's something like 2 seconds from a set of softs onto a set of mediums, and alternatively, onto a set of mediums is probably quicker than a set of soft compound tyre at this stage in this race. But Larkin's still leading the way. Doom's beginning to apply a bit of pressure load to Matthias, and he's now on the back of him, 3 tenths away, running down in towards Blanchimont. And Doom is now beginning to be dragged into contention, maybe by Matthias, and Doom might be the one to look out for here. Is he going to begin to pull the trigger? Because he's right on the back of Matthias. Larkin not in, Matthias not in, and the rest of them I think stay out. TDB stays out. Seb, Noon is the first one to come in. Oh, and he nearly spins coming into the pit lane.
Oh, he really pushed it there. I wonder if has he broken his front wing on the left-hand side by doing that? I'll have to wait and see when he comes into his box. I don't think there's a front wing prepared for him, so it looks like he's got away with it, but that was very close for the Ferrari man. He gets into the pits. So first one in, end of lap 6, start of lap 7. He's pushing it as well with getting those mediums to the end. Into the pits comes Dylan as well, but he was detached at the back of the field, so it makes kind of sense for him to come in and try and close in some of that gap through the pit stop phase. Then Noon out in miles of clean air in 16th place. Further up the field, it's all closing in for the top 3. Joom tucked right up behind, and you wouldn't believe at this point in the season, Joom is the lowest placed driver in terms of points of all the full-time riders. I think he's only scored 8 so far this season, but he's currently running in 3rd place. It's been probably his best showing of the season so far. Let's see if he can keep it up. And now that Noon's pitted, McCrass, you've got to say, has kind of been left hung and dry in that 7th place.
Yeah, he really has, and McCrass is just losing more and more time out on track. Rick, by the way, got through on Jake. Jake got through on Rick. He's up into P10 now out on track. 3rd of the guys on a set of mediums, but Larkin leading the way. June, really interesting thing to know. So I was running ball with him up through a Rouge. He was right on the back of Matthias, literally underneath his rear wing. And then he lost the time. He didn't use any overtake mode down the Camel Straight. Now, if I was him, I'd probably use it the alternative way around. I would save up the ERS and try and catch on the exit of a Rouge and Radion, and then use it up the Camel Straight to try and get past Matthias, because he's got the pace, but he's just in behind and waiting for the right moment, which will probably be this lap, as I would imagine people will be coming into the pit lane.
Yes, if anyone reacts to Noon's early pit stop, then Larkin's in, Matthias in, Joom stays out. So Joom, maybe with a little bit more ERS, can push on this lap, but I think he's probably the only one that stayed out. He is the only soft runner that stayed out on the track, so he's been left completely on his own. He's got to have a mega in-lap on this lap if he wants to hold on to that 3rd place. We'll see if anyone's held up in the pits as well. With a lot of drivers in, people are going to get held in the pit lane. Is anybody going to get held? It looks like Larkin might have just been held. Definitely Matthias was held in the pit lane by a little bit, but I think they're going to stay in the same order for the time being. Larkin stays just ahead of Matthias. Matthias stays ahead of Assassin, who's just ahead of TDB. Where does Noon feature in all this? Noon comes through the source, and he's ahead of Assassin, so he's gained at least 3 places in that pit stop phase. He's now running in a net 3rd place, depending on what Joom's pace is on this lap. And further up the field, Gary's got past Ryan to be the lead of the medium runners.
And Assassin's right on the back of Noon, running down the Camel Straight. Here comes Assassin, and it absolutely sails on by. Noon's real lead didn't really last long, as Assassin is now through, and he's up into 12th position in the final point scoring position, of course, here in League of Europe. The top 12, of course, awarded points. But Noon now dropping down into 13th. But, crucially, they're on a fresh set of mediums. The guys ahead are on all the set of mediums, and if you're Joom, you're on a set of soft compounded tyre. But actually, Joom is pulling out a gap to Gary. He's hardly using any overtake mode at all. If I was him, I'd use up that overtake mode all the way down and through Blanchimont, and then save it up when he comes into the pit lane once again. He's only a 10th off his personal best. He could go around again, maybe, and still gain time.
Yeah, it's got really, really good pace, and he's using that ERS now, look, down to 50%, coming down towards Blanchimont, using it up as much as he can. I think he was maybe hoping a little bit as well. The drivers around got held in the pit lane. Some of them did, so that could play into Joom's hand. He should come in at the end of this lap if he wants to hold on to that 3rd place over Assassin, and he's in. So he's into the pit lane, keeps it nice and tight for the pit lane entry. Make sure he doesn't speed as well going into the pit lane. He stops the car just in time for the pit limiter. So let's see where the AlphaTauri driver comes out on the track. Last week's race winner Gary now leads the race on that alternate strategy, with Ryan and J. Cole tucked right up behind all the medium runners, now running within range of one another. That gap that was formed behind Gary and Turikurik has now been closed up. It's going to be very close, definitely. Remember, Joom does get to cut off the La Source hairpin as he goes through the first corner. Larkin's still going to be ahead. He could jump Matthias. It's very close to Matthias. He's just behind him. But Joom, by staying out a lap longer, has not lost any time at all. He comes out in the same spot, and it looks like he might try and have a run at Matthias here for 10th on the road. It'll be a net 2nd place when the pit stops come into play. He's using that ERS. He's got a great run. He'll go to the inside line for the Les Combes chicane. Matthias using up his ERS though as well, and he's got a little bit of a toe from Larkin in front. Joom just didn't have the overspeed to pull it off, but Joom now has fresher tyres than everybody else around him and the pace if he wants to get the move done on Matthias in front.
Joom, I've got to imagine, is being held up at this stage because Matthias does not look like he's on the pace at all tonight, even though he's in a net P2 out on track. Larkin leading the way at 6/10 of a second. Matthias has just lost a little bit of time. He's lost another 10th coming out through X corner, on the run down towards P1, and then he gains it back. So Matthias has got to now apply a bit of pressure to Larkin. Joom has not really got to rely on Matthias, because I don't think Matthias has got the pace. Joom has got to get this move done sooner rather than later. Assassin is not entirely out of this. Noon not entirely out of this. And then you've got a big old DRS train down to Seb. Mikros is 2.2 seconds in behind as well. So really, it's beginning to form maybe into a fight between Larkin, Matthias, Doom, Assassin, Noon, TDB and Seb for possibly the race winner Zerdimer and Matt Tibos. Zerdimer absolutely sends it down the inside line into the bus stop chicane. And what a move. Down the inside line he goes. He's up to 6th. What a move.
Brilliant stuff from Zaldimer then, upper place and 6th place on the road, but he's now going to be under threat in towards turn 1. Matt Tibos has a look back down the inside for Lasource, can't get it stopped, but Zaldimer crucially locks up midway through the corner. Tibos is going to get the run out and he'll be very close to the back of that Ferrari, running up through Rouge and Radion, but Zaldimer does just have DRS on Packer in front, which could save him down this straight. It looks like it is going to save Zaldimer, so Tibos is going to have to stay in 7th place. Zaldimer almost looking like he might have thought of having a run at Packer, but just wasn't quite close enough at that point. Packer's losing touch, interestingly, with the 4 drivers in front. Packer barely holding on to DRS to Rekurik at this point. Packer 3rd in the championship, just has looked nowhere so far in this race. Qualified outside of the top 10 and is running 5th of all those drivers on the medium runners with not a lot of raw speed in his back pocket. And you've got to say, with Gary being at the front of the train, Gary doesn't look like the fastest medium runner. You've got to say that either Ryan or J. Cole looks a bit faster than him.
Yeah, Rick as well is looking really quick and behind, and J. Cole obviously got the move done on Rick a few laps ago, but he's still keeping up, and that's because of the DRS out on track. And Packer just doesn't look anywhere near these guys, if I've got to be honest. And Packer, it's disappointing to see. He's got to try and put in the effort now, and he's got to try and find something out of his back pocket to really try and still hold within this championship fight going into next week in Brazil, because Zerdimer is now punching all over the back of him. The Ferrari on the back of the Alfa Romeo, of course. Alfa Romeo leading the way in the championship as well in terms of the constructors. Larkin and J. Cole, both Racing Points, will be hoping to try and get this move done. Speaking of getting moves done, Doom is tucked up right in the slipstream of Matthias, and now Matthias is being dragged into contention by the toe off Larkin. Is Doom going to send it down into the bus stop? I don't think he will. He's going to sit on and hold tight, but now Larkin looks like he's beginning to struggle, and all of a sudden Matthias has found pace out of absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it looks like it's really... I think it's almost being pushed along by Doom. The fact that the pressure from the AlphaTauri behind is pushing Matthias forwards. The problem now for these guys is they're starting to catch Sway. Sway's completely on his own at this point in the race. It's all about where Larkin catches this Red Bull on the track. Does he catch him in the middle part of the lap, or does he catch him in time to pass him maybe down the Kemmel straight? That could really play nicely for his race. Again, Doom so close to the back of the Red Bull of Matthias, but Matthias is using that ERS.
Oh.
Is he... As further up the field as Adam and Packer are going for the move. And Matthias going for a move on Larkin here. Larkin's derating in towards Lake Com. Matthias around the outside, really late on the brakes. Is he going to pull it off? He is. That's a brilliant move if he pulls it off, and he does. All the way around the outside. Matthias and Doom down the inside, coming down towards the hairpin. Can he get that stopped? Larkin super late on the brakes, but he runs a little bit deep into the corner, but he's going to have the exit of the corner as well, coming up towards X. Doom has to back out of that one. Can Doom get the up and under for Puon? Not quite. He has to stay in 11th place, but Matthias is back in the net lead of this race.
Can I commentate on Division 2 more often? Matthias is through on Larkin, and Matthias gets the move done, but I've got to say, credit's due to Doom trying to get the switchback twice on the back of Larkin, and Larkin defended it like an absolute champ out on track, and Larkin now will try and put Matthias under a bit of pressure as well. Zerdimer and Packer were fighting side by side. I thought Zerdimer was going to do very similar to what we saw with Matthias, try and go all the way around the outside of Packer. He's dropped 7/10 of a second as a result, but we should begin to see the medium runners begin to come in from around this lap. Of course, it is going to be dry later on in this race. Well, it's going to be dry throughout this race, I should say. Yep. TDB is on the back as Packer and Zerdimer are the first to come in. TDB sends it on Noon down into the bus stop chicane. Can he get the car stopped? He does. Now into the bus stop chicane. Noon forces him out wide. TDB runs off track, and TDB's going to have to fall in behind on Noon. The good defensive driving, but TDB's still going to come back here at Noon down in towards Sermon, and Noon hangs on for 11th.
Yeah, TDB trying to make some places now. I think maybe just getting a bit frustrated in that queue of cars that he can't find a way through. Now we've got to see as well where Packer and Zaldimer come out relative to this queue of cars. He's going to come out definitely obviously behind McCrass, but ahead of Nolan and Dylan. 5.6 seconds behind McCrass though, who's a further 3 seconds off Scuderia Seb. And Packer is only about 3 or so seconds behind Gary. So the soft runners are going to have a lot to do. Matthias though passes his teammate Sway and is up into 6th place. Now this could work out beautifully for Matthias if Sway holds Larkin up. Larkin doesn't get a great run out of Malmedy, and Larkin is still deracing, so Larkin's used up that ERS. He's going to try and get to the inside line, but it's so difficult to try and switch to the inside line of that corner. If you run right, he's going to try and go round the outside of No Name and keep it on the road. That's going to be an amazing overtake, and he pulls it off. What a move from Larkin. He goes clean around the outside of Sway, wasted absolutely no time, is desperate to hold on to Matthias, did the move and made it stick. Absolutely perfect for the Racing Point.
I don't care if he was on fresher tyres, to be honest. That is an absolute amazing move from Larkin all the way around the outside of Sway. And Sway must have been looking in his back mirror and thinking, you're not going to try it around the outside, surely. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. It's Nolan, I think, that is off coming through. Puwan, he's lost it coming through. I don't think he's got any front wing damage. Now Juma's going to have a crack at Sway all the way around the outside through Blanchimon. And this is going to be bold as well from Juma. The Spaniard on the outside. Oh, they give each other plenty of room. And Juma's going to get this move done. Sway surely is going to come into the pit lane, as we see Gary and Ryan also in, and Sway into the pit lane. Joom now freed up, and Joom all of a sudden on the back of Larkin. Brilliant stuff by Joom. Gets the move done. He's now into 8th position. Now for 6th position, of course, with the guys, Gary and Ryan, going on a set of softs, and they're going to be quick towards the end.
Yeah, we've got to keep an eye out where they are compared to this queue of cars, and where they are compared to Zaldama and Packer as well. Obviously, they've been on these tyres a lap longer. Zaldama's jumped Packer in the pit lane, by the way, as well. Zaldama coming out around La Source. Zaldama's jumped Ryan. He's got right behind Gary. Has he got enough straight line speed to get past Gary? That is a massive undercut that Zaldama's performed on that lap. Joom's past Larkin, by the way, coming towards Lecom. Larkin losing DRS to Matthias and has no ERS. Joom has made that look easy. He breezes up into 5th place. Now it's up to Joom to catch Matthias before Matthias starts to sprint away. They're on very similar levels of ERS, so it's all about what pace they have at this point in the race. Joom has looked the fastest of the top 5 in this race so far. Can he close in and drag Larkin with him? But Larkin just seems poor ERS management is costing him at this point in the race.
Yeah, poor ERS management is going to be his downfall, I think, out on track. Joom has got the pace. He's now within a second of Matthias, and Joom is beginning to pull this gap. He's also beginning to pull Larkin actually back into contention as well. So Joom doesn't want to give Larkin too much breathing room to try and get onto the back of him, because Joom has got to try and drag these guys along if they've got any sort of chance of trying to ruin the Matthias party out on track. It's Jake Allard on top, Rick in second, Matt Tibos, I should say, in third, Matthias in fourth. Bit of a mouthful to say when you've got both of them together. Joom in 5th, Larkin in 6th, Assassin in 7th, more than halfway through, and it's been an absolute thriller. Seb is trying to go all the way around the outside on TDB, and he's going to attack him now down into the bus stop chicane. The top 3 are in, on a set of mediums. Seb down the inside line on TDB, but a hand of rage down on the inside line, a bit aggressive from TDB. Seb spins on the AstroTurf, and spins, and TDB's out of the race, and that might deploy a safety car out on track.
Have to wait and see if anything comes out. At the moment, at least, nothing has come out. But yet again, TDB in a great place, and aggressive racing costs him decent points. That is him out of the running. That is massive for Alfa Romeo in the manufacturers as well, with Larkin up there in 3rd. As further down, Packer's running side by side with Jaco, who's just come out of the pit lane. Packer jumps the Racing Point man and up into 11th place. But Packer still only scoring 2 points at this point. As it stands, Packer is out of the running in the championship. Jaco using his ERS to come back at Packer, who's racing down the Kemmel straight. Jaco down the inside line. Packer trying to squeeze him. Jaco really late on the brakes, kind of slams into the side of the Alfa Romeo. Packer gives him the same in return, and Packer holds on to 11th place. Jaco has to stick in 12th for the time being, but that is only for 2 points at this point in the race. Gary leads the soft runners. He's on a fresh set of tyres. He's 8th and only 3 seconds off the back of McCrass, who's got Scooter Eb right in front of him. So at least at this point in the race, Gary could be on for a 6th, maybe a top 5 finish.
Look at how Joom has caught up to the back of Matthias for the race lead. It's 4/10 of a second out on track, and Joom is absolutely electric out on track, and Matthias just doesn't know where to turn. Well, obviously he's got to turn through the corners, but Joom on the back is just electric in terms of his pace. He's got raw natural speed out on track, and it's very rare to see around here in Belgium that Joom is now on the back of Matthias. He's just got to sit and wait there, because he is the man that is sitting right on the back. Mikras is attacking Seb all the way to the outside line. Seb, by the way, has got damage left side, end plate damage off the incident with TDB. He's into the pit lane, and Mikras is through and he's into 6th position. Seb didn't put up much of a fight there, but Seb purely got caught. Obviously TDB forced him out wide, but he purely got caught in the AstroTurf, spun the car around on the AstroTurf, and that's why the incident was caused. That's why he got damage, and that's why you're seeing now him into the pit lane, and Doom right on the back of Matthias, coming up through a Rouge and Radion, and this now looks possibly on for Doom, but is he going to sit and wait behind? No, the Spaniard pulls out of the slipstream, Sebratai in the pit lane, Doom now to the inside line, down in towards the com, through and into the lead of the race he goes.
Yeah, Doom now the new race leader, so the man who's been threatening to take the lead of this race has now done so. Larkin's caught right back up as well, so Larkin still right in this fight. The top four are just starting to drop. Noon, who's struggling a little bit to hold on in 5th place. Still a decent race so far from Noon, as Nolan sets the fastest lap of the race, currently 17th and out of the points, but still the fastest lap of the race nonetheless. Doom then leads the way. What can he do? Has he got enough raw speed to break DRS to Matthias behind, or is he just giving Matthias the opportunity to sit behind and save some ERS for later on? There's still quite a way to go in this race. 7 laps when they cross the line still to go in this one, so plenty of time for Matthias to come back. But already Doom has got that gap up to nearly 8/10 of a second. Doom is absolutely flying in the lead of this race. It looks like it almost has enough raw speed to just break DRS completely.
He looks like a Division 1 driver at this stage. Doom leading the way, 7/10 of a second. Matthias is in second, Larkin in third, and Assassin in fourth. But I tell you what, Doom is just absolutely electric out on track. Matthias has got literally no response, and it's quite awe-inspiring to see, to be honest. Doom, who has been a bit of an underdog this season in Division 2, he hasn't picked up a race win, by not by my imagination. Doom is leading the way, Matthias in second, Larkin in third, but with 7 laps to go, everything can still happen here in the race here at Belgium. Larkin now closing up onto the back of Matthias, and now the 2 championship leaders are going on, and if Larkin goes ahead of Matthias, we're going for a tie for the championship lead into the final round.
Yeah, and that would be such a great way to start the final round of the season if it ends up like that. At the moment, Matthias would take a 6-point lead into Brazil, but that still wouldn't be enough. If Larkin won and Matthias finished second, that would mean that they would finish level on points, and Larkin would win on countback of race victories. So anything could happen in these final races. We'll have to wait and see, but at the moment it's shaping up to be a stunning end to the season at the moment. I was just talking about Noon losing touch to the top 4. He's managed to get right back in it in that 5th place, and the top 5 look safe, you've got to say, from the soft runners. The soft runners, when they were on the mediums earlier on, they looked like they were maybe fighting each other a little bit too hard, didn't have the pace when the soft runners came into the pit lane, and now they're not even really catching McCrass that quickly. Gary on that last lap, only a couple tenths faster than the Haas in front, who in turn is a little bit faster than the drivers in front of him. So it looks like the soft runners maybe just kind of stuck in 7th place for the rest of this race.
Yeah, they're all on board the Gary train, out on track, and Gary is the one that is conducting that train with Zerdimer on the back. J. Cole is pressurising Ryan. Oh, how Jav would like to see this. Relentless and XL going at it, 9th and 10th. And Ryan now under pressure from J. Cole. And J. Cole, of course, right on the back of Ryan, running up in towards 1-1 once again. But I don't think he's going to be close enough. 3.5 tenths down. Yeah, it's not going to be close enough. Down in towards bus stop. But Doom leading the way. He's pulling away. His middle sector is absolutely a lightning quick. But Matthias in second, it's the first and the third sector where the DRS zones are, where he can actually keep up and keep that gap to within a second, and that is going to be crucial if he's got any sort of chance. Literally, as I've said that though, the gap is borderline a second, and he's just within DRS running up through a Rouge and Radion, and Matthias now has got to watch out behind him because Larkin is going to be quite close. Assassin and Noon are in this as well. Zerdimer is going to try and have a look at Gary here as well for 7th.
Yeah, Zaldimer then, could he be the leader of the soft runners? Gary's already derating Zaldimer. Look at the straight line speed of that Ferrari. Up behind the McLaren is going to pull to the outside line, and halfway down the Kemmel Straight he's already passed, so Zaldimer then up into 7th place. Zaldimer started this race, I think, 17th on the grid, so he's had a brilliant race so far in that Ferrari. Once again, Zaldimer's race pace much stronger than his quali pace. 7th place it is for him, and they are still closing in on McCrass in front, so could be a bit of a higher finish for Zaldimer in this race. That would be great to see. Gary just struggling to keep up with the Ferrari in front. Ryan and J. Cole still sitting in 9th and 10th. The last points at the moment are currently held by Packer and Dylan, who rounds off the last points paying position despite his spin earlier on in this race. But he's got Rekurik closing him down very, very quickly at this point in the race. That's one thing we completely missed, by the way, is Rekurik dropping massively in the pit lane. I don't know if he had a spin or if he picked up any damage somewhere, but he's dropped well out of the queue of cars he was in a few laps ago. So out of the points at the moment he is. Back to the front though, Doom, but it's right on the edge of that DRS line. We've got a yellow flag. Matt Tibos has spun coming through the campus chicane just before Stablo does that trigger any sort of safety car. It looks like we're not going to get one, which is amazing to see that we're not getting safety cars in these incidents, but it looks like they're going to get away with it, and the safety car is the last thing Joom would want, because that gives the drivers behind an opportunity to save their ERS up, and crucially Joom balancing on that 1 second window. Has he got enough ERS in hand coming out of La Source to make sure he stays a second ahead of Matthias? Matthias gets a great run through the hairpin, and Matthias, I think, has done just enough to stay within DRS range, but Joom is doing what he needs to do and is draining Matthias' ERS for him.
He is indeed, and Joom right out on top, and Matthias is going to be hoping that Joom either makes a mistake and comes back to him, or that Matthias has suddenly found pace from literally nothing. Matthias has got to try and break that gap to Larkin as well, and at this stage Matthias will lead by 6 points in the championship. Going into the final race of the season, Packer would be out of contention, I believe. He's in 11th position out on track. He's stuck in that train. Zerma's trying to drag them along onto the back of Miklas, but I don't see that happening later on. But Joom, just raw speed, raw pace, has absolutely blitzed the field out on track, and it's quite impressive to see. But now the top three beginning to pull away. Miklas picks up a 3-second time penalty. Assassin and Noon, 4th and 5th position. They're just dropping out of the DRS out on track, and Assassin 1.2 seconds off the back of Larkin. He's got to try and find something on the back, because Noon is right there. He's 9 tenths away, but Assassin has now got to try and pinpoint him down, literally get within a laser scope of Larkin ahead and try and get onto the back of Matthias. And I apologise for that awful pun.
All the sniper puns coming in nicely at the moment, but yeah, Assassin just struggling to keep up with the top three in this race, and Noon himself also struggling to keep up with Assassin. I think Noon's older tyres and the fact that he's running out of ERS as well is just hindering him in that 5th place, but 5th place seems definitely secure, at least in this race, for Noon. He's got a comfy 3-second margin to McGrath, who has a time penalty, and Zaldimer further back just doesn't seem to have the pace to be able to catch the top 5 in this race so far. So the Ferrari safe from his Ferrari teammate as it stands. In the lead of the race, Matthias is closer this time around, not close enough to challenge on the DRS range, but he's closer this time around, doesn't have to use his ERS coming out of the source. Not long to go in this race, 4 laps to go. Matthias has slowly started to creep back in it, and he's dragging Larkin with him. The thing is for Matthias, if he wants to get the move done, he's got to get closer to Joom, he's got to get the move done before we get to the Les Combes chicane, because otherwise any contact between Joom and Matthias, and Larkin is there to pounce.
Yeah, on the back, by the way, J. Cole's right on the back of Ryan. Rick has gone through on Dylan, side by side between J. Cole and Ryan, coming through Les Combes. This will be bold from J. Cole down the inside line. Ryan's on the outside line, and now they're still side by side, and the overtake mode has just got to come to use for J. Cole. He's down on the inside line. Hand of Rage comes up for the racing point, but now the Mercedes has to fall through. J. Cole is through, he's in tonight. Really good move there by J. Cole. Ryan, really good defensive driving, didn't want to give up the position. Packer now on the back as well. But Ryan now down into 10th position. J. Cole doing enough, and he's up into 9th, and currently out on track.
Joom with a time penalty. Race leader Joom, so fast out on track, he's pushing too much. He's picked up a 3-second time penalty, and that's handing the race at the moment to Matthias, unless Larkin can do anything about it.
And now Larkin has to try and get onto the back of Matthias. He'll see that in the top left of his screen. That Joom has got a 3-second time penalty, and this will be egging these guys on to just bring out a little bit more pace, to try and push it that little bit more, to try and get onto the back of Joom, and they want this out on track. I know they do. Onto that 20, it's Joom that leads. Matthias in 2nd, Larkin in 3rd. They pulled away from Assassin. It looks like it's between these 3. But if Joom drops back any further, Assassin could come in for a possible podium shout. Noon is not entirely out of this either. Gary on the back of Zerdimer. It's all going to spawn into a real last 2-lap fight, I think, throughout the field.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that is the case at the moment. It depends on whether Matthias feels the need to challenge Joom. Because if Matthias is smart here, he maybe just sits behind Joom, uses the DRS off the back of the AlphaTauri to help him stay ahead of Larkin. If he goes to the move on Joom, that still leaves him vulnerable to the drivers behind. So we'll have to wait and see what Matthias thinks about that situation, whether he'll just sit back and win it on penalties, or whether he actually wants to win this race on track as well. I don't know if there's a bit of a contact further down. Gary going past around the outside of Malwardy. Falk's retired in the pit lane, but Gary back up into that 7th place.
Yeah, Gary actually forcefully going through on the inside line there in towards Les Combes. He tried to hang it all the way around the outside. It was on the inside of the curb. Zerdimer then got pushed out wide. I'm sure there's no bad blood between them now. There probably will be. Zerdaba's on the back of Gary. Falk is coming out of the pit lane. He, of course, retired, so don't worry about that AI car. And it's too late for a safety car. We could still get a VSC, but it's too late for a safety car now out on track. So we're pretty much now, right to the end, Doom is doing everything in his power, though, to try and pull this 3 seconds. It's now 1.2 seconds. And at the continuation rate, he's got a lap fresher tyres compared to Matthias. If he keeps on pulling out this gap, Matthias might just be out of 3 seconds range come the end of 2 laps time. But it remains to be seen as Matthias is also derating down the straight.
Yeah, Matthias is using up his ERS to try and stay within DRS range of Doom, and that's allowing... This is an opportunity now for Larkin, who has a little bit more ERS than Matthias in front, who's deracing down the pit straight. He's used up so much ERS. If Matthias is not within DRS range of Doom coming down the straight, Larkin has a major opportunity. It's going to be right on the bubble, but I don't think Matthias is going to get it. Matthias is not going to get DRS this time around. Larkin's got to use this opportunity now. He can't wait for the opportunity to come to him later on. He's got to get past the Red Bull driver now, who's derating down the straight. Larkin likewise is derating, but he's got the DRS. Matthias doesn't have it. Larkin to the inside line. Matthias is going to have to try and go all the way around the outside. He's late on the brakes, but not late enough. And Larkin's through. He's up into second place with a lap and a half to go. Now, can Larkin hold on to that second place on the road and win this race, having sat most of this race in third place?
He's got to. Larkin has got to try and hold on. He's now beginning to pull away. Matthias might have just outdone his tyres slightly, and now that's why Larkin begins to pull away. And at this stage, if the race was to finish as it is, June would obviously drop down to third. It would be Larkin leading the championship by 4 points going into the final round of the championship in Brazil. June leading the way, Larkin in second, Matthias in third. This race is entirely not over and done with. Nolan, by the way, is into the pit lane to probably go for a fastest lap attempt down in 15. But Doom absolutely skillfully has driven well. That 3 second time penalty is the nail in his coffin. No shadow of a doubt. And Larkin and Matthias now, second and third. Matthias is going to try and get onto the back of Larkin, because in the end, if he outscores Larkin, Matthias will be the championship leader. If Larkin outscores Matthias, he's going to be the championship leader. So it's all on the line for second and third into the final lap of the race.
Yeah, it definitely is, and Matthias is now right on the back of the race in points. I think Matthias here might have the opportunity to do to Larkin what Larkin did to him the lap previous. Larkin used up his ERS to get past the Red Bull, and then hasn't built enough of a gap. Larkin, I think, there at La Source backing off to try and give Matthias the DRS, but what that has done has given Doom a massive lead. So these two thinking about one another is allowing Doom now with the opportunity to win this race. If Doom has a stunning middle sector, he might have enough of a gap. Larkin's already out of ERS. He's going to be deracing down the straight. Matthias looks like he's going to breeze back past the racing point on the final lap of the race. Larkin can do nothing about it. Matthias is back into second place, but these two playing cat and mouse with each other, trying to get the DRS off of one another, has given Doom an opportunity to try and win this race now.
Yeah, Matthias is beginning to pull that gap back, though. 2.2 seconds is the gap. He's got to find 8 tenths as Doom, or a 3 second time penalty for Matthias could fling it into Doom's way, possibly out on track. Zerdaba, Gary, Jekyll all fighting for 7th position as well. The 3XL boys with Ryan and Packer close knit in behind, but Doom is 2.3 seconds clear. The bird has flown out on track. Can the bird fly by another 7 tenths of a second to get the win of the race? Looked unlikely a lap ago, but I tell you what, Larkin's at wrongdoing, I think, of trying to let Matthias through. Might have just put the nail in the coffin for him, but Matthias is going to be 2.6 seconds coming through Stavilo. Doom is pushing like mad.
Absolutely pushing like mad. He's using up the last of his ERS. Matthias is within penalty range. Larkin isn't. That is crucial for the championship if it stays like that. McCrass has passed Noon on the final lap of the race. I don't know if Noon has got a puncture or if he's just slowing, but McCrass is now up into 5th. Doom around the bus stop chicane. He's going to win on track, but with that time penalty is not going to take the victory of this race. It looks like Matthias is going to win on track. Doom gets 2nd, Larkin gets 3rd, and that is crucial for the championship. Matthias outscores Larkin by 10 points. That means the gap going into Brazil is a 13-point difference. That's the difference between a win and a 4th place finish. That has worked beautifully for Matthias, who wins the race by 3 tenths of a second. Assassin just misses out on the podium as well. My oh my, what a race that was, but Doom threw it away with that 3 second time penalty.
He did indeed, but he gets 2nd and Larkin gets 3rd, and Matthias now pulls out 10 extra points on the back of Larkin, pretty much with a 13-point advantage now going into the final round of the championship. It is now Matthias's championship pretty much to lose. He has now got pretty much the championship at his mercy. Only him, and only him, can make his own destiny.
Definitely, yeah. It's all going to be down to Larkin in the next round of the season. Larkin has to finish on the podium next time around to have a chance of winning the championship. It all depends on where Matthias finishes after that. So that's going to be really, really crucial in the final round of the season, what Larkin's pace is, whether he can get on that podium any lower than third place, and it's Matthias's championship. So got to keep an eye out for that at Brazil. That is going to be fascinating to watch, but it's another win for Matthias as Nolan is going to throw that car across the bus stop chicane and completely miss the straight. So it's a little bit of an unforced error. I'd say a forced error there from Nolan as he comes through the bus stop chicane to finish 15th place and nearly a lap down on the rest of the field. But there we go. That is the Spa race over and done with, and it's Matthias that wins, I think, for maybe the third time this season, if my count is correct. But finally, Doom has been able at least to get on the podium and show off the pace that he's been threatening all season long.
Yeah, 5 points to Doom's name before tonight, and now he pretty much jumps ahead of Nolan, jumps ahead of Spag, and he's up into 18th position in the championship. So Doom did a really great job out on track. Matthias, though, holds up 13-point advantage, and to the top step of the podium he comes. A great drive by Doom in second, and an even better drive, I think, by Larkin in third. These three could not be separated. Out on track, bar a 3-second penalty from Doom. I'd like to see how this is going to happen and all going to unfold in Brazil, because I think you guys in Division 2 are in for an absolute treat next week.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to see the championship going down to the wire, and it is now officially only between two people. Packer's poor performance today means he is out of the running in the championship. Packer only 12th, 1 point to his name today, not the race that he would have wanted. Here is your finishers then. It's Matthias that wins from Doom and Larkin. Assassin fourth, good race from him as well. The only one that was able to keep close to the top three in that race. Noon in fifth after dropping on that final lap ahead of Mikras. Zaldimer, the leader, the drivers on the alternate strategy, gained 11 places in that race. That was a great race from Zaldimer. Gary in 8th ahead of Ryan at 9th. J. Cole rounds off the top 10. Dylan and Packer round off the point scorers. Rakurit couldn't recover after that pit stop phase. He stays 13th ahead of Sway. And Nolan, your finishers. Falk, Tibos, Scooter Zeb, TDB and Arcolo all retired from that race. Scooter Zeb, TDB and Arcolo, three drivers that would have probably been inside that top 10 had they been able to complete the full race. So that was a very, very interesting penultimate round of the season. James, if you could send out some invites to our top three so we can get them in and have a little bit of a chat with them in the comms box and have a little bit of an interview with our top three, that would be amazing. But yeah, just before we do get those in though, James, who are you going to give your Driver of the Day award to?
Oh, it's impossible to try and give a Driver of the Day, honestly. If I've got to be honest, I think Doom definitely gets Driver of the Day for me. Just an all-round great performance, pretty much like Division 1 back in the day, in, I think, Season 2, where he was right up there with the pace. And he literally showed that to his great effect. And I think, for me, he gets Driver of the Day. What about you?
I think I'm going to have to go for the boring choice and say Matthias, only simply because it seems that he timed all of his moves to perfection. While he maybe wasn't the fastest driver in the field today, he definitely proved to be maybe the smartest, and he was the one that was able to get that victory because of it. So I'm going to have to go with Matthias as the boring choice and the obvious choice for Driver of the Day for me. But obviously some shout-outs as well to people further down. Zaldimer from 18th on the grid to 7th. That's a great drive. Assassin as well, being able to keep close to the top three. It's a shame that he wasn't able to keep within DRS range because he could have likely stolen a podium off of Doom or Larkin.
What have I done? I've sent them invites to the lobby instead of... Oh, I'm an absolute... You can tell. Yeah. Just ignore me. Oh my god.
You can tell that it's the end of the evening and that you haven't commentated in Division 2 for a while. It's been a bit of a... Yeah, definitely a little bit of an old one. But yeah, we'll get those in due course at least. So obviously we'll have to talk a little bit about Brazil. And Brazil, we've got to say, is a circuit, I think you'll probably agree with me on that one, that it probably favours some of the pad drivers. It is definitely a pad-heavy circuit. Larkin, we know, is a pad driver. So do you see Larkin being able to steal this championship off Matthias, or do you think Matthias has enough pace to win this?
I think, honestly, Larkin's wrongdoing was literally him trying to let through Matthias down and towards the source, and that could be the definitive moment in the championship going into the final round of the season in Brazil. But it is going to be really intriguing to see that these guys are so close in each other in terms of pace. anybody could win in Brazil, and anybody could throw up a little bit of a spanner into the works in terms of the top three. But Matthias won, Doom in second, Larkin in third. I'm now finally getting them into the party, as you can see now on your screen, instead of them inviting them into the lobby, which was a complete failure on my end. But I'll let you take the interviews, Ed.
Brilliant stuff, and our race winner and our championship leader going into the final round of the season side, Max Matthias, is in the party. So Matthias, first off from you, that was pretty close at the end of the race, 5/10 covering the top three, but it's another win for you this season, and you go into the final round in Brazil with a 13-point advantage. How are you feeling after that race? Yeah, definitely a strategy-heavy race that one was, and it seemed like you were the one that were able to time your overtakes to perfection. You got them on the right lap at the right time, and it was enough to get you the race victory for yourself. Like you mentioned, it was a race full of strategy. Pace-wise, though, it maybe seemed like you were the third fastest out of the three in terms of yourself, Larkin, and June. Was the plan all along to maybe not lead this race and sit in second, or were you just going with how the race went?
Oh. Uh, we can't hear you, apparently. Just all coming from Mark in the comments.
I should be audible now. Sorry.
Well, there we go. I think everyone can maybe gather what you said. That's fine. We'll keep going, though, and we'll talk us through your thoughts on that last lap. I think it was pretty obvious that Larkin at La Source was trying to let you through so that he could take the DRS off of you. When that happened, you obviously very clearly stayed in behind the racing point. Was there a thought in your mind that at that point you might have lost the race to Doom, or were you still thinking that you had that race in hand?
I was basically looking cross-eyed because one eye was on Larkin, and when as to when he was going to like go full throttle and really go for it, and the other eye was on Doom's the gap to Doom, whether that was staying in a healthy margin or not. And yeah, when I saw Larkin go, I thought, okay, yeah, this is good. Doom isn't like ridiculously far ahead. I can still get within the 3 seconds of him, and yeah, that's and then Larkin had no ERS at all, so that also helped with the overtake.
Yeah, definitely looked like it. James, is there anything you want to add for our race winner tonight?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Going into next week in Brazil, you've obviously got the weight between your shoulders, and you've got a 13-point gap on Larkin, who I know is in the commentary box alongside us. What? You must be feeling under a lot of pressure going into next week.
Oh, I've been feeling pressure this entire D2 season. Everyone thought that I was either going to easily walk the championship or bottle every single race, and it's neither of them. I've been battling with Packer and now mostly Larkin now, and yeah, it's been really tough so far. But going into the last round, of course I'm feeling the pressure. It's 13 points might seem like a healthy gap, but if Larkin wins the race and I get fifth, he's winning the championship, so I still just need to do my best and not think about the pressure.
Yeah, my final question as well. That La Source going down, La Source hairpin down and towards turn one, last lap of the race, did you have any intention of going through on Larkin?
Oh, absolutely not.
Thought you might say that.
yeah, it's just DRS was just too important for that for the Camel Straight, and yeah, I think Larkin realized that as well. So yeah, he tried to. I think he might have made a slight mistake going past me on lap 21. I don't know whether that was like fully thought through or whatever, but yeah, that basically helped me, get that win.
Yeah, that's all for me.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Matthias, for joining us once again in the commentary box. Kind of your second home at this point in Division 2 this season, and might be back here this time next week as a champion, but you're going to have to get practicing. I imagine you're going to be sweating Brazil like a madman for the rest of this week. But that great drive from you again, and congrats on another victory. I don't think Doom is in the party, unfortunately, so we'll head straight over to our other championship protagonist, and the man who finished in today's race in third, only half a second behind Matthias, but 2 places behind Mr. XL Larkin. Now, I think you're probably on the other end of the spectrum of how you feel compared to Matthias. Matthias a bit jubilated after that race. Yourself, Larkin, maybe not feeling quite as happy.
No, I don't think I was quite as happy. I mean, going into the race, it's the same as what I've said, I think, a few times this season. I didn't think I was going to get P3. But then to be where I was after quali, to have the race pace I did, I was happy with that. But then to lose it in the way I did, especially having that position in between us, is quite a tricky one to take, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine a little bit of a hard pill to swallow for that one, but still a third place finish for yourself and another podium for your championship season. Obviously, you're still right in the running as well. Talk us through your qualifying as well. I think that's probably one of your better qualifying performances of the season, that second place in qualifying. So talk us through kind of that part of the session and how you felt after that session had finished.
I mean, I did 2 practice sessions earlier. I did a 0.0 and a 0.8 as my 2 times in those. And then my banker in the one today was equally terrible. So I wasn't really expecting much. My teammate gave me a great tow on the final lap. And then I was just going around the lap and noticing that my delta was getting better and better. And then came over the line, it was P2. So yeah, quite surprised, but we'll take it.
Yeah, definitely take it. And it looked like in race conditions, you and Matthias were very evenly matched in terms of pace. Maybe you with a little bit of a slight advantage. And we'll have to talk about that last lap as well. That La Source, it was pretty clear that you were probably trying to let Matthias through to give yourself the DRS. Was that the plan, or was it a mistake from yourself? What was that final lap for you?
I guess you could call it a plan. Yeah, it wasn't a very good one. But yeah, I knew I had to try something. I barely had any ERS. I'd had to use it all up earlier in the stint when one of the reserves had decided that he wanted to influence the title battle. So I had to think of something to do, and that was it. And it was the worst idea I've probably ever had.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's one way of putting it, definitely. And that final lap of the race there. Obviously, going into the final round then, you've got a 13-point disadvantage to Matthias. And like Matthias said, that's still not a lot in terms of Formula 1. Even I think a win for you and a 4th place finish for Matthias would still be enough for you to possibly win the championship next time out. So anything can still happen for yourself. How are you feeling about Brazil? Was that a track you think that you can get that win at?
Yeah, Brazil's one of my best tracks. I'd like to think that my sort of just general pace around there is probably one of the better ones in the division, but I know there are plenty of people who are going to sweat 3 hours a day, so I'm sure when you do that you can all get up to my pace. It's fine.
Yeah, I think I've got my eye on one person that may be doing that. I think we might be thinking of the same person, but I'll hand over to James. Have you got anything that you want to add?
No, nothing to add. You stole my question, so it's all fine.
Well, there you go. Yeah, stole James's question. That was a brilliant way to end it. But thank you, Larkin, for joining us in the commentary box, and congratulations on another podium for yourself. And those are the final 2 drivers in the championship battle. Then Packer falling out of the championship battle, as did Noon after that round. It's a 2-horse race going into the final round of the season for Division 2. It's going to be an absolute nail biter in Brazil in a week's time. Before we finish off, James, have you got one last thing that you want to add to this stream?
Division 2 next week. Tune in, because it's going to be, at least you've got a battle going into the final round of the season, like we have in Division 1. But I'm not jealous in the slightest. But honestly, tune in, because these guys are great. Brilliant race here in Belgium. Can't wait to see how it's all going to unfold in Brazil.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely brilliant, and I think I'm proud to say that Division 2 is probably probably the best division. I think we'll have a little bit of a competition between ourselves, me and yourself, James, for that one. But that is where we're going to But that was where we're going to finish off the stream today, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in this race once again today. Thank you to the drivers for racing. Thank you to Larkin and Matthias as well for joining us in the commentary booth. We're back in a week's time for the final round of Season 5. It's the final round of Formula 1 on this game, at least in terms of the actual LOE season. So that is one thing to note as well. We've got a bit of a break after next week, before the new game comes out in July. Tune in at 6:40 for Divisions 1, 3 and 4. James will be commentating on the Division 1 race then. I'll be racing in Division 3, and Divisions 2 and 5 will be taking place at 8:10 next Saturday. So tune in to the final round of the season, but thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you in a week's time. Goodbye.